Welcome. You are at the CCC where there are no outside issues. My name's Anthony. I'm an addict and alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you. Each week, we will provide and create a brave space for more people. Sorry, Lewis isn't here today, and I thought I would get through this smoothly. Each week, we'll provide and create a brave space where we can engage in conversations around topics of recovery. Our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us. Before we do that, like, subscribe, comment, ding that bell, and tell your friends about us, tell your parents about us. Just waiting for the intro music to die down so that I can give the intro, the disclaimer. God, I feel like every week it gets a little bit longer, just a little bit longer every week. And now the disclaimer: the thoughts and opinions expressed on at the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. The opinions expressed here are, the information shared here is for general information purposes only. In other words, we are just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you. Ana Maria, I think I'm nervous because you're here.
What it is?
Yeah, I think it is. We never have grown-ups behind the counter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we never.
Yeah,
We're just a bunch of bozos behind me, but you're not a bozo.
Yeah,
You seem so wonderful.
Not this time, no.
No.
Maybe another time.
Yeah. Well, I want to just jump right in and introduce you. So we have Ana Maria on, which is Jordan's mom. Jordan is one of our PAs and is now doing some navigating behind the scenes for us. And Ana Maria is Jordan's mom, but she's much more than Jordan's mom. She is a person who exists in this life with the rest of us. Yeah.
Yes.
And she's going to be on, well, she's not going to be on. She's on today to talk about Al-Anon and her experiences in Al-Anon. For those of you who may be looking at the thumbnail, it may say Dharma, but it's not Dharma talk today. So today we're going to be talking about Al-Anon. Ana Maria, should we jump in?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me tell you. I'll ask you.
Yeah, ask me.
Okay. First question is, where are you from?
I am born and raised in San Francisco.
Okay.
And my family is from El Salvador in Central America.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
That's really cool. And so you're in Al-Anon. And what made you start going to Al-Anon?
My qualifier asked me to come.
Oh, yeah?
Start going to Al-Anon.
Yeah.
So because...
a little closer to them.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yes. So my qualifier, of course, was having...
Issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he suggested that I go to Al-Anon.
Okay.
And so I started looking into different programs. Or different meetings, really. And I did online and I did a couple in person. But I found a meeting that I felt really comfortable. And I just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been going for about 10 months.
10 months?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll jump into that in a second. And so the last question we ask all of our guests is, and what's your relationship with your higher power?
So it's a lot closer now.
Oh, okay.
There was a time where I did walk away from my higher power.
Yeah.
For several reasons. But I've learned, as I've learned in Al-Anon, I've learned also as well that you take what you need, you take what you want, and leave the rest.
Yeah.
And so that's how I'm looking at
Al-Anon and your higher power.
And my higher power, right? And the church.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. In such a brief amount of time, I feel like there's so many questions that I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
But before we started rolling the cameras, we were talking a little bit about like your time in Al-Anon, and you were saying that it's been very transformative for you in such a short amount of time.
Yes.
So can you share more about what were the things that were happening for you before you got into Al-Anon?
So besides losing my mind.
Okay.
Can
you say more about that? Let's start there with losing your mind. Losing her mind. I wrote it down.
Okay. So it's, even though, of course, I'm not using, but because of someone that's very important to me it was very impactful.
Of course. Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
And so I was a mess. So I don't even know how else to say it, because I was trying everything and anything and to no avail, but I was trying, and I knew that I was not going to ever walk away from my qualifier. I knew my qualifier was going to be part of my life one way or the other, but I needed to figure out how I survived in this mess. Is
Yeah.
really what I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah. Well, I want to stick with the mess for a little bit,
Mhm.
right? Because our listeners, we have all types of listeners, right? So we have people who, are well integrated into 12-step or Al-Anon or whatever the case is. And then we have other people who listen who are like just curious about whether or not they can connect with what we're talking about. So it's sometimes helpful to talk about like the wreckage, right? So when you said that you were losing your mind, what were the things that were happening for you where you're like, I'm overthinking? Like, what was it like? I'm thinking too much about this situation. I'm trying to control things. What was going on?
All of that.
Yeah.
So I was in a constant panic.
Okay.
Constant panic, constant worry that my qualifier will not make it the next day.
Right.
Knowing that what he was doing was putting himself at risk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a constant just panic, and I didn't know how to get away from that. I didn't understand how to get off that roller coaster.
Right.
And I was on that roller coaster, right, sitting next to my qualifier, up and down.
Yeah.
And it was a lot.
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
sorry.
Go
Jordan
ahead.
Here. What's a qualifier?
Oh,
What's a qualifier? Thank you, Jordan.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I just assumed we all knew, but we don't. Go ahead.
So the group that I go with, Al-Anon.
I'm going to just pull this a little closer. Okay. Go ahead.
So the group that I attend, the Al-Anon meeting that I go to, and really all of Contra Costa, we identify our
like the person or like
person
as a qualifier.
As a qualifier, opposed to an addict, or, we just say our qualifier.
Yeah.
There's a reason, and this is how we qualify to come into these meetings.
Right. And it makes it less about them and it makes it more about you, and it like
Right.
removes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're not there to talk about that.
That's right.
About us. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things I learned early on with Al-Anon was that the whole purpose is to be able to be happy and have serenity, regardless if your qualifier is actively using.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I needed. I needed something because it wasn't working what I was doing. And so I started going to the meetings, and I learned quickly that it wasn't, okay, come here, read this, and now you're going to be able to fix everything. It doesn't work like that. You get to know, you don't fix anything.
Right.
Yeah. And that's part of the
part
learning.
of it. It's like, yeah. I didn't, what is it? One of the Al-Anon, I didn't create it. I didn't.
Yeah. The 3 C's.
Yeah. What are the 3 C's? What are the 3 C's? There's like,
so
I can't control it.
Right. I didn't cause it, and I can't cure it.
Okay.
But there's a 4th C.
Ooh. What is it?
You can contribute.
Oh.
You contribute to the madness. You contribute to the problem.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing. I was totally contributing.
Yeah.
And I'm probably making things worse because of my craziness, right?
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to not do that. So another thing that Al-Anon taught me were the do and don'ts.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of those?
No, let's hear it.
Okay. So I actually wrote them down.
Oh, I love this. And you brought notes. You brought notes.
I'm always prepared. No, I'm always joking. I'm not always prepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
But
let's see.
so the do's, right? I'm sorry, wait a minute, not the do's.
No, go ahead, take your time.
Okay, hold on. Where am I? Okay,
I see the do's on that side.
The do's. Okay, so do forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Do be humble. Do take it easy.
I'm gonna write these down. There, go ahead.
Do play, recreation or some hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Do keep trying whenever you fail.
Mm-hmm.
Do learn the facts about addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Do attend Al-Anon meetings and do pray.
Okay.
So those are the do's.
Okay.
So the don'ts, when the first time I heard the don'ts, I'm like, I'm doing all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be self-righteous.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to dominate, nag, scold, or complain.
Okay.
Don't lose your temper.
Okay.
Don't try to push anyone but yourself.
Okay.
Don't keep bringing up the past. Don't keep checking up on your addict. Don't make threats that you're not going to carry out.
Okay.
And don't be overprotective, and don't be a doormat.
Okay.
So those don'ts hit me hard because I was doing
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah. Can I tell you what's really amazing about this?
Mhm.
Is that so I've been in Al-Anon for a few years, and that's the first time I'm hearing that
Really?
because I don't go to meetings.
Okay.
And the thing I have such a I see there it goes.
Okay, there, yeah.
So so I guess one thing I'm trying to say is thank you for that, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I joined Al-Anon.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. Were you
Yeah.
gonna say something?
Yeah, no, and then I was just going to say the other thing that really helped me was the slogans. Al-Anon has several slogans.
Yeah.
And the two that hit me the hardest was live and let live,
Okay.
and let go and let God.
Okay.
And that's what I needed to do. And that's what helped me to be able to breathe again. And then, of course, I had to bring in my higher power back, because that's part of it. And so I think I feel better. And I do believe my qualifier feels better. We have a better relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to, I
Yeah.
needed to pull back.
So I want to go back a little bit. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Mhm.
I was thinking about, okay, so speaking for myself and like the way I grew up. So my grandmother who raised me is most certainly someone who could benefit from Al-Anon.
Mhm.
I don't think that'll ever happen because she's 80. And we can all start 12-step whenever, right? You could be 99 and do 12-step.
Mhm.
My she just won't.
Right. Okay.
Okay. That being said, I grew up in a household where my grandmother was the ultimate enabler, but I don't think she would ever look at it that way, right? So here's the scenario.
Right.
My uncle has been addicted to heroin my entire life. I've talked about him on the show before. He's stolen from us. He's been in and out of prison, has created a lot of wreckage.
Right.
My grandmother is the only person in our family, and we're a huge family, is the only person in our family who will let him stay over, who will feed him, who will give him money, who will, right, despite all this stuff, right? And so I grew up with a lot of that, right? And I, for the longest time, saw my mom as like, oh, she's empathetic and she's compassionate and she's so self-sacrificing. And this is what it looks like to love someone and to care about someone. All the while, like, she was actually hurting herself. She was actually making things worse for him, right? So I'm wondering, when we talk about kind of caring for someone, like, at what point did you feel like, wait a minute, like, this isn't compassion, this isn't empathy, I'm not caring, I'm actually hurting myself?
So I had I want to say like a mini meltdown.
Okay. I
You
have
know.
big meltdowns all the time.
But it was a
I'm having
mini
one right now.
meltdown.
Go ahead.
Where it, a lot of things hit at the same time.
Mhm.
And I really realized something had to change
Mhm.
for me. And I felt like I was worse off than my qualifier.
Oh,
And
interesting. Can you say, like, at what was happening that made you feel like you were worse off?
I think I just couldn't focus on anything but my qualifier.
So you were preoccupied, like,
constantly. I couldn't sleep. I wasn't sleeping. I was a mess. I was. And so I just think it was time. And it kind of shook me a little bit as well. So I knew I needed to do something more for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to get off this roller coaster.
So when that makes a lot of sense. So like there was a moment where you're like, okay, this is enough. Like, I'm suffering. This is great. Yeah. You hit the wall. So would you say then that the next things that happen were motivated by that? Or like, was there still like a part of you that's needed to kind of push yourself to start going to Al-Anon or seeking help?
Well, I think that kind of shook me to look for help and to really get more involved in it. But working Al-Anon is another step as well. And you have to continue it. It's something that you have to keep going. It's not like, okay, you go to a meeting, go to 2, and things are better. It doesn't work like that. Right.
Can I interrupt you quickly? Because I don't want to forget this question. So that's interesting. And I think a lot of people in 12-step anything can relate to I can, for example, be motivated by my pain, but once I start doing it, like there's still things that might get me to like, well, maybe I don't need to do this now, or maybe I'm fine, right? Has any of that ever happened to you?
Well, I felt like, so once I started going and I started learning things, and picking up as I was going to the meetings and the reading, there's a lot of reading that actually helped out a lot as well. But to me, it just showed that there was a lot more to peel back.
Okay, the onion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a lot. Yeah, because it's a lot. Because I mean, also, just like anything, I was learning about myself.
Yeah, I was just writing that. Yeah.
I was learning about myself, and and it also made me strong to be able to tell my qualifier, no, nope, no more enable, nope, I ain't doing, nope, and it's on you now, and, so it takes a lot to be able to do that.
Can we take a moment and pause there? So, because what you're describing is actually, that's a lot, right? Like I just think about what it was like for me to establish a boundary for the first time with someone that I cared about very much and I love, and I like cared about what they were feeling and thinking, right? So can you describe what that experience was like when you got to the point where like you felt like you actually had to talk to your qualifier? Like, was that hard for you? Was it like you're like, I know I need to do this, but this is so difficult?
Right. Well, yeah, because we were helping him financially, the qualifier, for a bit. And I said, nope, no more.
Right.
And knowing that could have gone really bad.
Right.
Knowing, because, of course, you go to Al-Anon and you hear stories. And of course, the books I've read, some don't come back from that.
Yeah.
And it's a chance you take.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to kind of, detach with love. You have to, because I was going down with the ship, I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't,
what you're reminding me of is my grandmother. I'm over here talking about her business, but she doesn't listen to the podcast. She listens, but so what I'm thinking of is so that was the thing that kept coming up for her. She would say to my family, okay, let me tell you a story. So there was this time where so he had stolen from everyone in my family, right? And my aunt told him, like, you can't come to my house, right? And one day he said, well, let me just use the bathroom. And she said, no, you can use my bathroom. Okay. So he begged and then he goes use the bathroom, and she knew what was going to happen because it's the same thing that always happened. He goes to the bathroom, he shoots up, he comes out, he's all messed up, right? So he and so the other thing is that my aunt lives in public housing, right? So you get the cops called, you're losing your housing. Okay, so he goes to that. So he goes upstairs, he ODs. I know, he ODs. Wow. So he's like knotted out. They have to, so they obviously are going to call the ambulance, but they drag him out of the house, and they drag him out further out into a field, and they call the ambulance, right? And she had to do that because she would lose her housing, right? So this got back to my grandmother, and my grandmother said, how could you do that to him? You threw him out like a dog. You should have kept him there. She was just thinking about all the bad things that could have happened to him, right? And then when she thinks about like him not having housing, right? Because no one will house him. So she'll house him. She's like, because what will happen to him if he doesn't stay here, right? And as I'm listening to you, like one of the things that takes a lot of courage and a lot of energy is when a person says, that's no longer my issue. And in fact, it never was my issue, Yeah. But it takes time to come to make peace with that. Yeah.
Even though I said it out loud, I was dying inside.
Of course. Yeah.
I was dying inside.
Of course.
And I knew that it could have gone, it was going to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
It was going to go one way or the other. But I knew that I was hurting him by enabling.
Yeah.
And we do that, and we just think that's all we could do, but no, it's not. And so he knew that I wasn't going anywhere, and his family wasn't going anywhere. Dad, or we were here, but we could not continue to help him in that fashion. And so it was for him to make some decisions, and then I prayed. Oh yeah, because you have you
Yeah,
gotta,
of course.
yeah. But it was hard. It was a hard time.
Something I struggle with now is if I care about someone, my instinct when they're having a hard time, like say there's some kind of grief that's going on with them, I will take it on and see it as like my responsibility to make it go away from them. I mean, I'm doing that a lot less these days. But in general, like that's something I get sucked into. It's like this idea that like, oh, I have the resources to make you better, but I can't make you get sober. I can't make you make different decisions. And that's really hard. But sometimes that gets very blurry for me, right? Like it's like I want to have empathy and be sensitive to like the needs that a person has. And at the same time, like I'm of no use to you if I'm falling apart.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, so I think also there has to be some boundaries as well. If, like, so we had to put boundaries up, and one of the discussions was, don't come over if you're not fully there.
Yeah.
And if you're getting over, whatever it is that you've been doing, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Don't bring it home. I don't want to see it. Thing, right. So it was very difficult. It was very difficult. And it's not an easy thing. And that's one of the things I think Al-Anon does. It does give you strength and understanding that it is okay to detach, and it's healthier for you to detach because you're not helping.
Yeah.
You really aren't helping them.
So let's talk about that, because now what you're describing is, you have these experiences, you start making changes in your life. Yeah. And now, you've been in Al-Anon for 10 months. And so I'm curious, like, what does life look like for you now?
So I go to church every day. I go every day. I join the rosary group. I pray the rosary. And I walk out of church feeling like, okay, I can't control anything, but I'm a little stronger on the way out.
Yeah.
So that helps me. I go to my Al-Anon meeting on Mondays, and then and I try to do more exercise. I've been doing some hot yoga, but I haven't been consistent. But I that's another thing I've been doing for myself. So I just try to do a little bit more, and be more present for me, because I was not in a good place. But it is. And I think a lot of it too also is you have acceptance. I think the first thing is you have to accept that this is what it is. And you can't do anything. And I was never used to not having control. I like my control.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
When you can't control,
Yeah.
and you're like, this is a mess and there's nothing I can do about it. But once you accept that you can't, and you accept that this is reality, and stop coming up with excuses or coming up with your own stupid stories, because you're just making up stuff. Once you've gotten to that point, then you can tackle this better, and you look at it with a clearer eye.
You said something that I absolutely love, which is, I remember when I stumbled upon this myself in 12-step work, is when you said I can't control anything. I think, let me tell you, Ana Maria, I've been in AA for over 10 years, not continuous sobriety. And I think it is only in like the last 2 years that I've come upon that. You know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy, because you think about all the different, the illusion, it's the illusion of control, right? It's like, well, if I put this application in, I'll get this result. But the truth is that, like, sure, it kind of looks like but you're really not, and there is something very freeing about that. Like, I can't control how people see me. I can't control the weather. I can't, right. And there's a lot of freedom in that.
Right. And when we think we're controlling, we're just doing busy stuff.
Ooh.
We're just busy.
Yeah.
We're just busy, act like we're really getting something done. We're not getting not a thing done.
Yeah.
But, again, we're kind of like faking ourselves out.
Yeah.
Thinking that
Yeah.
we do have control.
And and sometimes I think it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's all the things. I'll speak for myself, right? I don't want to speak in general terms, but I think like when I'm anxious, I do kind of preoccupy myself with like thinking I'm doing something, but really I'm just kind of like spinning in circles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, especially when it has to do with somebody else.
Uh-huh.
Because really the only thing we can control is ourselves, right? And the only thing we can control is how we react to whatever mess is in front of us or whatever good is that's in front of us, right? So we're the ones that's all we can control.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting you brought up exercise, which like I never thought of like exercise as being, well, I mean, my thoughts around this has changed. But I've never thought of like exercise as being something like essential to my mental health. I mean, that's obviously changed over the last few years, but how would you say exercise has helped you out?
I think always breaking a sweat. I mean, just breaking a sweat, you just feel better. And if I don't do hot yoga, just go for a walk and just kind of just like not think about a lot, just kind of just let go of a little bit. But I do think it helps. It definitely helps to do some exercise.
Yeah.
Even if it's just walking for an hour.
Yeah.
Just doing that.
So I'm curious, you've been doing the work and what we've been calling doing the work, right?
Yeah, it's work.
Right. It is work, right?
Okay,
I know. Well, that's one thing that after it is work, right? After our last episode, Lewis and I, who generally sits where you're sitting, Lewis and I, after the camera stopped rolling and we were talking, we're like, oh my God, that felt so stale. It felt like, what were we even talking about? And then I had a conversation with another friend and I realized like, oh, the reason why that feels so kind of amorphous to say like doing the work is because it looks like so many different things. You know what I mean? It's the exercising, it's the going to church. Like that's what work looks like for you, right? For me, sometimes it means like I'm not saying a thing or I'm being kinder to myself, right? So I feel like I need to kind of like say that explicitly, is that like doing the work, quote unquote, just can look like so many different things, so you were saying too about like learning more about yourself. Do you think not do you think, but I'm curious about like when you talk about the onion or when you talk about kind of peeling the layers, what is something that you've learned about yourself that you feel surprised by, where you're like, oh, I didn't know that about myself? You don't have to share. You could say, Anthony, mind your own business. Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, well, I'm not going to go all through that, but no.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, but I would say that I didn't realize how much I liked control.
Okay. Say that.
Yeah. A lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always, because, having kids and working full time and, and trying to keep everything just right. I juggled a lot and control was my thing. And when this came up, I was like literally running around in circles and not knowing how to just fix this, because I felt like I should be able to fix this. And then until I finally admitted and accepted that there was nothing I can do, and that, because of course I blame myself. There was all this you start bringing all this back to you. I could have done this. I should have known, how
all the shoulds.
all these should have and could have.
Yeah.
But, really at the end of the day, knowing what I know now, I couldn't have known. I mean, there was a reason why it was being done away from me and hiding it from me. You know what I mean? But no, so I didn't.
Unless you're putting a pipe to someone's mouth, you're not contributing.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't, but I do think once I knew, I just, I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's what took me a while.
And I don't mean to be so flippant, but I get you. I get what you're saying, right? I get what you're saying. control. The thing is that I never realized I was controlling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I'm just trying to organize things.
Yeah, but
No.
we are.
Yeah.
We are. Especially if they let us.
Yeah.
Especially we will control. Yes, we will.
I love a broken person. I love a broken person. Come with all your pieces. I'll put them together for you. Yeah. So it sounds to me, it sounds to me like you have a lot of serenity now, right? And so you do.
I do.
You do.
Yeah, I gotta say yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. And I do. I thank my higher power for that.
Yeah. What would you say what are some of the biggest differences between what your life is like now versus before you started doing Al-Anon?
Well, one of the big differences is my qualifier is working on a sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
So that's huge, right? But also, I feel like I've been able to challenge my energy smarter.
What do you mean?
And putting energy towards me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's about me now.
Mm-hmm.
Opposed to all this other stuff that I couldn't control. So I think I'm smarter now that I need to do more for me. I need to be healthier, and I need to, and just being able to detach with love, because of course I love my qualifier to no end.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew there was no way I was going to ever walk away.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to detach at the same time, and just be there supportive to them when they need you, as they go through their journey.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that's a lot of the differences is really me.
Okay. Yeah.
Of course my qualifier is in a better place, thank God. But it's really me, the way I'm dealing with stuff.
Yeah.
Now, and don't get me wrong, I still have my, I go sideways.
We all do.
Sometimes. Yeah. And I feel like I relapse too,
of course.
Just like I start going crazy. I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? What happened? So I have my days as well, but they don't last as long.
Right.
And I come back and I'm smarter for it, I guess,
Yeah, it sounds like you're also more forgiving of yourself, which is so important.
Yeah. And there's, my mom used to say, hay un remedio para todo menos la muerte.
Oh, wow.
And I never really understood it till I got older, or never really hit. But what she's saying is there's a remedy for everything but death. And I just needed to find my remedy for this situation. That, there's a remedy for everything except death, right? But she would say that, and of course it never really clicked until
I love that.
Into that. But yeah,
it's like morose, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's so dark. Yeah, but it's real,
It's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what she would say that to us. But it's made sense to me more.
Can I tell you something my grandfather says? He says, only sinners fear death.
Oh,
isn't that? He's an asshole. Only sinners fear death. He's a crazy man. But I love what your mom said. I love that. There is a remedy except for everything.
For everything except death. Yeah.
So there's a lot of serenity. So for people who are maybe contemplating Al-Anon or are like curious about it, what advice or suggestions do you have for those people?
I would say, don't get turned off on your first meeting, because sometimes you just don't click.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I went to a few until I found the one.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
So definitely don't get turned on. Oh, this didn't work for me. Well, maybe that meeting didn't.
Right.
You don't get along with everybody.
Right.
And I found a parent meeting. They have ones just for parents.
Oh, and that's so cool.
For, spouses or partners, right?
Yeah.
But this was just for parents. So we all had children.
Yeah.
And it ranged from as old as 50-year-old children, till 15,
Yeah.
And so it was just easier to relate. So you have to find your group. So keep going, figure out and you'll click, because you have to feel comfortable too, and so I will say I learned so much from these folks, their stories. And I mean, they've been going to Al-Anon for like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I heard that, I said, "What?
I know. I
There's
had
no
that reaction right now,
way."
and I've been in the program for a while. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, what? I'm coming to this meeting. What? 30?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but it was definitely an eye opener with that. But I do see it. I mean, I do see that it would be something, but I just say keep trying, and then also read. I mean, there's good books. There's definitely good books, and then go listen to some of the speaker meetings. Also help me where you hear someone from AA and also from Al-Anon. And I'll just say a really quick story here because I know we're
Let's
close
hear
to
it.
time.
Yeah. Take your time.
So I went to a speaker meeting, and it was the AA was her son, and Al-Anon was mom.
Okay.
And so she spoke and he spoke. What was interesting, and it stuck in my head, and kind of I finally like looped back around that, and it helped me, was when he said, he goes, I've been in rehab 15 times, and he goes, I could recite, all the steps, I could recite all the books. He goes, I got it down. He goes, and then he goes, and I know I got a problem. I know this isn't any good for me. I know it. He said, but I keep relapsing. And he said, and the reason is because I didn't have my third leg in my stool. And his third leg was his higher power. So it's not just doing the program, it's not admitting, but also your higher power. And that hit me because I didn't have my higher power there. And so once I did that, I felt like, okay, my stool is steady. Okay, we could stand on this.
Yeah.
We could sit here for a while, but it wasn't for a while. So just listening to other people, the way life has tried, beat them up or has taught them, we can learn from that. And I think that was huge for me.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for that, Amalia. I was just thinking about something my sponsor told me very early on, kind of similar along the same lines. She said to me, Anthony, some days it'll feel like the program has failed you. Some days it'll feel like I've failed you. People will fail you. Your job will fail you. But the only thing that won't fail you is your God, is your higher power.
Yeah.
And her suggestion to me was like, that's where I put my energy. That's the relationship that I should cultivate.
Right.
Well, this is so nice. I'm so grateful that you came on.
Okay.
Yeah, this has been really nice.
And I hope I've helped somebody to
you've helped me.
Go find, find your meeting. Don't give up.
Yeah, I love that.
You need your sanity.
You do need your sanity.
Your serenity. You do, because tough when you lose it.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And we're just crazy because we're, you know what I mean? It is. It's tough.
Yeah.
It is tough. And, the other thing I'll say is for whoever is thinking of that, it's okay to be crazy.
Yeah.
Don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself for being crazy.
That's right.
Every reason to be crazy.
Yeah.
Because you got somebody that's doing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be crazy.
I love that.
It's
you have every reason to be crazy.
Yes,
that is so real.
It's true. You could be crazy. You could be losing your mind and all that stuff.
Yeah. I know everything. Like, let's be real, right? Because if we think about just think about the state of politics. Doesn't matter where you are in the aisle, or it just you think about politics, or you think about the pricing, prices of things, or you think about interpersonal dynamics, or you think about stuff you see. Everything is so. And then we all have our independent histories, and some of us are still struggling with things that have. There's so many things going on, and I think maybe the truth here is that we're all unstable.
We all got everything. We all got something.
Yeah, we all have something,
yes,
and the people that look like they've got it together, they're probably the worse off.
No, they don't.
They're probably the worse off. No one has it together.
We all got something, and that's okay.
Yep.
It is okay.
It's the human condition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's part of the mix, whatever, when they made us.
The salt and pepper and the crazy.
Yeah, and the crazy. There's this little sparkle. Yes, a little splash of crazy. A
little splash of crazy, and that's how I prefer it.
Yeah,
and that's how
and it's good. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
There is nothing.
As long as we're, we know about it, and we take care of ourselves.
Yeah. And you find you're crazy, you find other people who have the same kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And that kind of works out sometimes.
So if we're already a little crazy, and then you got, this mess, it's okay to be a little more crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lose your mind a few times.
Yeah. My mom says, what did she say? She says, today for me, tomorrow for you. You know, that's just the way that works.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna land the plane, but then we're gonna still continue talking a little bit. So the Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBT recovery community. We provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth. Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support. You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us at what is wrong with me today? www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast. Tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts.